Welcome to today's video. Today is a full-on masterclass on habit formation and destroying habits that you want to get rid of. Let's dive in. Did you know that about half of what you do is a habit? So there's a study that was done at Duke University that found that approximately 40% of our daily actions are driven by habits instead of new decisions. There was also another study that was done at Harvard that found that about 48% of what it is that we do are habits. And when we are just doing this, you have to think about it. That's nearly half for those two, right? Which means that we are unconsciously doing about 50% of what we do throughout the day, we're not even consciously paying attention to. It's just habits of stuff that we've been doing for so long. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are just whatever. You don't really need to put a label on it. But when you look at a habit, what is a habit exactly? They are basically automatic routines that control all of our daily actions in some way. And it could be the act of just brushing your teeth, something that you've done thousands of times, or it can be a really complex cognitive process like how we react to somebody that looks like someone that we used to know, and we react to them based off of past traumas that have happened to us. And so when you look at it, the first thing I always ask myself is why, right? So I ask myself that about myself all the time. Why am I this way? Why do I do this? Why do I act this way? Why did I do that? But when I look at this and I look at habits, the first question I have for myself is, why does our brain make a habit? Like, what's the actual point? Because our brain and our body are not going to do something that's not efficient and good for us to do. So when you look at it, critical thinking and actually having to use your brain to think, okay, I'm going to get done here. I'm going to walk down the stairs. Okay, I'm going to take my key out of my pocket. I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to drive. I'm going to turn left here. And you're actually doing all of the critical thinking. It is one of the most energy consuming things that your body does. Your brain only accounts for about 20% of or 2% of your body weight, but 20% of your energy is used by your brain a day, which is why you can have a day where you're just sitting around, you're working, and your body rarely even moves. So the physical body doesn't do a whole lot, but you did a whole lot of mental work, and then you're exhausted at the end of the day, right? And so habits help reduce all of the cognitive load of just the everyday tasks that we have, which then help us, focus on other things. And so when you look at it, habits are extremely important to our lives. And a lot of us have built really good habits over our lives. And all of us have built really bad habits in our lives as well. And it's about the act of taking a step back and saying, okay, is this one that I want to keep or is this one that I want to change? And with habits, they help us carry out tasks with not a whole lot of mental effort, which then free up other cognitive resources to do more complex things or to do new things. And so it's good, but it's also bad. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's really important for our mental efficiency. But on the other hand, it can lock us into patterns and behaviors that can make it really hard for us to change, especially when those habits are unhealthy and we really want to change them, but it's kind of ingrained into us. We need to kind of rip them up at the roots. And so when you understand the science of habit formation, it isn't just about knowing why we do what we do, but it's about that and why we do it. But it's about understanding it and understanding it enough to then make positive change in our lives, to put in the right habits and get rid of the bad habits. This is how it works, okay? There is a cue, and the cue is the trigger that initiates the habit. And it can be an external environmental cue, but it can also, and what I mean like external cue, it could mean like the location that you are. It could be a notification on your phone. It could be someone else walking in. Those are all external cues, but it could also be an internal cue, like a specific time of day, or when you start to a specific emotional state, when you start to feel a certain way, right? It could be somebody says something to you and it changes the way that you feel. And now that's the internal cue for you. So the first thing is the cue. The next thing is the routine. And this is the behavior itself that we want to change. And so it's whatever it is that you do. It could be the cigarette, it could be the glass of wine, it could be the coffee, whatever it is for you. It could be, getting anxious. That's the routine that your body naturally goes into. And so that's the thing that we're trying to change. Or if we want it to be stronger, we want to develop a really good habit, it's the thing that we want to reinforce. It's typically what we think of when we think of habits. And the routine is basically the habit itself. So it's cue, routine, and then the last part of it is the reward. Cue, you get stressed out at work. Routine, you go and have a couple glasses of wine when you get home. The reward is that your brain, when you have a drink, it turns off the prefrontal cortex part of your brain, which is the executive thinking, and other parts of your brain as well, which then just make you more calm. So the same way that drinking can make somebody calm, eating a lot can make somebody calm because it requires so much energy from your body that it actually turns off some of the energy going to your brain, so you can't keep thinking so much about all the stuff that's stressing you out. Okay, so that's an example of a cue, routine, reward. Another thing that people do sometimes is nail biting. And the cue for them is feeling nervous or bored or anxious about something. And because of that, what they start doing, and they started learning this in childhood, is they bite their nails. And the act of biting their nails and focusing, because it is such a small and minuscule thing that you have to do, and the act of it is it's a distraction from uncomfortable emotions. And so instead of actually feeling and thinking about your emotions, you can go to biting your nails because of the fact that that's requiring you to, it's distracting you from the uncomfortable emotions. So if you have children that bite their nails, it's usually them distracting themselves from uncomfortable emotions or thoughts or feelings. And so this habit loop is deeply, deeply rooted into human neurobiology. And so when we encounter a cue, the interesting part about it, when we encounter the cue, our brain actually releases dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that triggers our reward system and then drives us to perform the habitual routine to achieve the next reward, whatever that reward is. Plus, when we get that reward, our brain releases more dopamine. And when we get that into we're basically dopamine fiends. We all want dopamine. We all get it in different ways. Good ways, bad ways, everything. And so when we actually get the cue, our brain releases a little bit of dopamine, and dopamine is a chemical of motivation. We want to go and get the next bit of dopamine, which we know if we follow the routine, we're going to get the reward, and reward is also going to be part of the dopamine system. And so it's really, really interesting when you start figuring out how the human brain works. And this process is facilitated by a part of the brain that's called the basal ganglia, which plays a central role in the formation of habits. And each time we go through the habit loop, the connection in our brain gets stronger, making the habit more ingrained and automatic within us. And so it's known as something called Hebb's Law, which basically says that neurons that fire together wire together. The more they fire together, the more we do something over and over and over again. This is why repetition is the mother of all skill. So the more that they fire together, aka sends an electrical signal from one place to another, the stronger the wiring actually becomes. And this is why people who are older seem really set in their ways. It's not that it's impossible to change at any age, because it's not impossible to change. It's just that they're more resistant. And so it's really interesting when you start to dive in and start to think about it. And when you look at this, you go, yeah, it's really not that difficult. If I have some sort of habit that I'm trying to change, what is my cue? Can I get rid of the cue? If it's in my physical environment, can I get rid of that cue so that I'm not tempted as much? If not, maybe I can change it and start to become aware of what is my cue, what is my routine, what is my reward that I feel whenever I have a bad habit. See if you could change your cue, see if you could change the routine, all of that. Become aware, just become more aware of what's going on. And then the second thing that you can do is if you're trying to create new habits, how can you start a cue? How can you make sure that you have the routine, and how can you create a reward system? And so that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr. And also, if you love this podcast, I definitely think you're going to like something that I've been talking about the past few episodes that's coming out called Mindset Mentor Plus. It is a way to take these episodes and fully integrate them into your life. And so, I know that if you're out there, you want to grow and you want to improve yourself, this is my way of trying to help you take these episodes and integrate them into every aspect of your life. Every single episode that comes out on this podcast for people in Mindset Mentor Plus are going to get detailed worksheets, multiple pages, explaining and helping you understand the topics even more. There's going to be journaling prompts so you can actually start to integrate them into your life. There's also going to be assignments so you can start using them really in your physical environment. So you're not just a listener of the podcast, but a participant. There's going to be exclusive question and answer sessions with me. There's going to be access to an entire Mindset Mentor listener community and many, many other bonuses. And it's going to be less than you spend on coffee a month, most likely. And for some of you guys, it's going to be way less than you spend on coffee every single month. So if you want to learn more about it and you want to sign up for the wait list, because founding members will get a discount, go to mindsetwaitlist.com to learn more. Once again, mindsetwaitlist.com. And I'll send you out the email before we announce it anywhere else. Nowhere on social media, nowhere on podcasts. It'll come out to Mindset Waitlist first. So with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.